These are the notes for systems of equations, which is chapter 6, day 2, a new method called the elimination method. So what you do in the elimination method is you eliminate one of the variables. So in order to eliminate and use the elimination method, the first thing you have to do is you have to get opposites. You either have to get opposite x's or opposite y's. So remember, opposites are like 5 and negative 5. Those numbers are opposite. Negative 7 and positive 7. Those are opposite. So if I look at number 1, my x's are opposite because I have 1x and negative 1x. Those are opposites. Once you have opposites, you add the equations together. When you add opposites, they cancel out. 1 and negative 1x would cancel out. You add everything else. Y and negative 3y. 1 and negative 3 would be negative 2y equals 13, and negative 23 is negative 10. Now we have a one-step equation with one variable we can solve. To get rid of multiply by negative 2, we divide by negative 2 to find out that y is 5. Just like yesterday, we're looking for the ordered pair answer, the x comma y that made both of these work. We just found out that y is 5. Now that we know that y is 5, we need to find out what x is. So you go back and you pick either of your equations. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go with the top one. He looks easier. So we have x plus y equals 13, except now we know what y is. We know that y is 5. So in for y, we can substitute y out of the game and put what he is equal to, 5. So x plus 5 equals 13. To get rid of a plus 5, we subtract 5 to find out that x is 8. So then my ordered pair answer would be 8 comma 5. So again, this is what's going to make this equation work. If I do 8 plus 5, I get 13. Negative 8 minus 3 times 5 is negative 23. So it's the x and y that work for both of the equations. So in number 2, you either need opposite x's or opposite y's. I can see that my y's this time are opposite. Negative 9y and positive 9y are opposite. So I go ahead and add the equations together, and the y's would cancel out. 2x and negative 4x is negative 2x equals negative 9 and 27 is 18. Solve the equation. To get rid of a multiply by negative 2, we divide by negative 2 and find out that x is negative 9. So in my ordered pair answer, x comma y, I know that x, the first place, is negative 9. And I pick either equation, doesn't matter. I'm going to go with the first one, and I substitute what I found. So I found that x is negative 9, so I'm going to take x out of the game and put in negative 9. So I have 2 times x is negative 9 minus 9y equals negative 9. And then I just solve this, right? So 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. Still minus 9y, still equals negative 9. To get rid of a negative 18, I add 18. So now I'm sitting at negative 9y equals 9. To get rid of a multiply by negative 9, we divide by negative 9. So y is negative 1. And the final answer would be negative 9, negative 1. All right, looking at the next one. We have 5x and negative 3x, not opposite. 12y and negative 4y, not opposite, right? So they didn't just give us opposites. We're going to have to create them. So we look and we see if we can just multiply one of the equations. So for x's, I have 5. So I know the opposite of 5 would be negative 5. So I have negative 3, and I think, could I multiply negative 3 by something pretty, meaning an integer, to get negative 5? And I can't, so that's not going to work. So then the next one, I can see I have positive 12. So this is what I'm thinking in my brain. The opposite of positive 12 is negative 12. Well, I've got negative 4. So can I multiply negative 4 by something pretty to make him negative 12? I can, right? I can multiply by 3. So what I want to do is multiply the second equation, the whole entire thing, by 3. That will create opposites. So the first equation stays 5x plus 12y equals 30. And when I multiply the second equation, 3 times negative 3x is negative 9x. 3 times negative 4y is negative 12y. And 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So now I've created opposites. So when I add my equations together, the y's cancel out. 5x and negative 9x is negative 4x. 30 and negative 6 is 24. 24 divided by negative 4 gives me x to be negative 6. So in my ordered pair answer, I know that x, the first value, is negative 6. So now to find y, I would substitute back in. So I get to pick either equation. I'm going to pick the first equation. The numbers are a little bigger, but they're all positive. I know that x equals negative 6, so I'm going to replace x with negative 6. So I have 5 times x, which I know is negative 6, plus 12y equals 30. Well, 5 times negative 6 is negative 30, plus 12y equals 30. To get rid of a negative 30, I would add 30. So I'm at 12y equals 30, and 30 is 60. And 60 divided by 12 is 5. So x is negative 6, y is 5. My ordered pair is negative 6, 5. All right, number 4. I have negative 10x and 5 aren't opposite. 12y and negative 6y are not opposite. So I'm just going to go after my x's because they're first. So the opposite of negative 10, this is what I'm thinking in my brain. The opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. I have 5. So I'm saying 5 times what would give me 10? That would be 2. So I'm going to multiply the second equation by 2 in order to get opposites. So top one is staying, negative 10x plus 12y equals 6. Multiplying the bottom by 2. 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times negative 6y is negative 12y. And 2 times 1 is 2. Now that I have opposites, I add them up. I say, oh, wow, look, this one actually has opposite x's and opposite y's. So I have 0 on the left. 6 plus 2 on the right is 8. This is one of our special situations. So when both of the variables x and y cancel out, you're going to be left with a statement. Our statement is 0 equals 8. That is a false statement, right? That is never going to happen. 0 is never going to equal 8. So that means there is no solution. Right? So if x and y both cancel and your statement is false, that means no solution. The other thing that could happen, I'll put it in a thought bubble here. It doesn't happen on this problem. If you solve and you get something like 0 equals 0, well, that is true. So that's always going to happen, right? 0 is always going to equal 0. So that's when you get your special situation of infinitely many solutions. So if the variables both cancel out x and y, if the statement is true, it's infinitely many solutions. If the statement is false, it is no solution. All right, number 5, we can see we don't have opposites. We look at x and y. The x's are closer at being opposites, right? I have 4 and I have negative 2. So the opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. So I have to ask myself, negative 2 times what would be negative 4? That would be positive 2. So I'm going to have to multiply the negative 2 by positive 2 to make it negative 4. So I multiply that entire top equation by 2. So 2 times negative 2x is negative 4x. 2 times negative 4y is negative 8y. 2 times negative 24 is negative 48. Bottom one staying, 4x minus 5y equals negative 4. I have my opposites now, so I add them up, say bye-bye to my opposites. Negative 8y and negative 5y is negative 13y. Negative 48 and negative 4 is negative 52. And negative 52 divided by negative 13 is positive 4. So now I know x comma y. I know that y is 4. I pick one of the equations. I'm going to go with the bottom one. Remember, it doesn't matter which equation. What matters is who you substitute in for. We know y is 4, so we have to replace y with 4. So we have 4x minus 5 times y is 4 equals negative 4. We distribute. 4x minus 20 equals negative 4. To get rid of a negative 20, we would add 20. So now we're at 4x equals 16. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So our answer, 4, 4. Last one. Neither x or y's are opposite. They're just as close to being opposite. Well, I'm going to go with the x's. They're out front. So I have negative 14. The opposite of negative 14 is positive 14. I have 7. So I'd have to multiply 7 by 2 to make him positive 14. So top equation is negative 14x minus 4y equals 18. Bottom equation, 2 times 7x is 14x. 2 times 8y is 16y. And 2 times negative 15 is negative 30. So now I'd add my equations together. Since I have opposites, I say bye-bye to my opposite x's. Negative 4y and 16y is 12y. 18 and negative 30 is negative 12. And negative 12 divided by 12 is negative 1. So in my ordered pair answer, I know that y is negative 1. Now I pick either equation. I'm going to go with the bottom one. I know that y is negative 1, so I can replace y with negative 1, a little substitution. So 7x plus 8 times y is negative 1 equals negative 15. So I have 7x minus 8 equals negative 15. To get rid of a minus 8, we add 8. So 7x equals negative 15 and 8 is negative 7. Negative 7 divided by 7 is negative 1. So my answer is 20 at negative 1, negative 1. That's the elimination method. We'll spend one more day on it tomorrow.